Okay, let's talk about my gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous Dieffenbachia that was gifted to me by one of my coworkers. So she was struggling, and her first leaves were huge. So when the plant was gifted to me, the leaves were about 10, 11 inches wide, about 14 uh inches long. I mean, they were huge, but there were only about, I want to say four. I'm going to say there were four, but they were beautiful. And I just love, love, love this plant. So I did some research on the plant because she did start struggling. She was in a large pot. It was about a 14-inch um, diameter pot, and about it could have been about 10 to 12 inches in length, but big old pot she was in. And she started struggling, and I was like, oh my gosh, this plant can't die. I'm like, oh, I need some help. So, of course, I went to YouTube and Dr. Google trying to figure out what a Dieffenbachia was. How can I care for her? What can I do? And I ran across the Liquidirt guy uh, and a neem oil um, person. So a person was using neem oil to treat insects because I did find some insects in the pot. And so I started with the neem oil, but the neem oil, the scent, oh my goodness, it is not a favorable smell. So I don't really like using the neem oil because of the scent, but the neem oil does work, and you have to reapply a couple of times before all of the insects and I suppose the larvae and everything is going. So there is like a week by week cycle that you will have to do. The liquid ergot solution, I have shared it a couple of times now on a few of my videos, but that solution, um, it seems to get rid of the bugs almost that same day. Now, I'm not saying don't reapply, because I did go ahead and reapply maybe a day or so later, but not in direct sunlight. So if you have a plant that's sitting in the window and you open your curtains, do not spray your liquid earth God solution onto that plant. Um, close the blinds, let the solution kind of dry out, let it have a little bit of just your indoor light or your fluorescent lights that day, but no direct sunlight that day. Um, and I say that day, for the few hours until it, dries out. So that way the leaves won't burn and scorch. Same with neem oil. You don't want to do a neem oil treatment and that plant is getting direct sunlight, because it will burn the leaves. Anyway, this plant, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Started struggling. I couldn't figure it out. I got the insects under control. The leaves were still dropping. So it'd grow one and then drop one, grow one and drop one. And I was like, okay, well, this pot is too big. Obviously, it's too much soil. Maybe it is some insects on the bottom. And so the roots, when I pulled her out of the pot, she barely had any roots. And so I was like, well, that's the problem. She can't sustain more than one or two leaves at a time. So I was like, okay, well, now I have to put down extra, some rocks or something, so the water would drain um, from the plant and from the roots, and it allow it to dry. So I was like, okay, well, let's just change the pot altogether. The pot was just too big. I couldn't really monitor it. It was a terracotta pot. I don't like terracotta pots because they were porous, and it started growing this little white um, residue on the outside. You can clean that, and I did clean it because I end up repurposing that pot for a sale. Um, and I don't want to say went bad. I just wasn't paid. So I guess that is bad. But you understand the people in which you're dealing with. So going forward, you don't have to engage with that person in the manner you did before. It's like the conversation you'll have and someone says something to help you identify who they are, and you see clearly. You're like, oh, okay, now I understand who you are. So if a person shows you, let's go back to this saying, this old timey saying, if a person shows you who you are, you must believe them. And that is it. So that is it. That is all. So that's how I took that approach. So the lack of payment just showed me who you are, and I shouldn't have to remind you or do any of that thing. But if I was a collection agency, they would. And that probably is a good business practice. I just know going forward, no, you send me the funds, and I'll bring you whatever. I try to do a little bit of a different approach because I want you to see that you're getting a healthy plant. You're getting a healthy plant. And I know online sales is different, but face to face sales, uh, I want you to see that you're getting a healthy plant. And online sales, you can't reassure someone by having a slight guarantee, because plant moms are not all the same. So online sales, you can't say, oh, you have, whatever the return policy is, or if you don't mind doing a video chat with me so I can look at the plant, or like a video call, so that way I can look at the plant, zoom in, let me see if there are any bugs, or have like a 2 week process where you will talk a person through the live plant that you sent to them. Because when it is traveling, sometimes people don't handle with care, even though you have to put your live a notice on the plant, so you're saying this is live. You have your holes in your boxes. You give it just the right amount of moisture, and then it's going to deal with a low light situation because it's in a box. So that's why you have the holes in the live plant boxes. But if you have those holes in there, is anything else crawling in? So it's really, really, really tricky to sell good, vibrant plants online. But you just make sure your customer understands that, hey, this is a live plant. A lot of times in travel, the light situation is a little bit different. If you call me, or we can do a video chat, and I will, make sure your plant is restored back to health, these kinds of things, because it will take time to get acclimated to the area in which you put it in, because plant moms can also have low light situations where the plant actually came from a high light situation, like this plant. So this plant is at the moment getting 16 hours of light. So lights are always on, some level of light is on. So I could technically actually say 24 hours. It does at night get a lower light situation, but lights are always on around this plant now. And I don't know uh, if the plant health can be attributed to that, but she is doing really, really well now. And now she does have the orchid moss. I said I wasn't going to be too long-winded tonight, but I guess I am. And I did wrap around a piece of my pothos around her. So now I don't keep the moss stick moist enough, because I have it in a place where it is, what do you call it? It's on a wood table, and I need to really waterproof the table. Just measure it and then put just a plexiglass over it, so that way if I accidentally missed or get some water on it, I won't ruin the whole table. But she is doing well in the orchid moss, no insects so far. And I think she likes her partner. So I think she likes this little vine climbing up with her. And in the natural habitat of the Dieffenbachia, she would climb the rock wall or climb under a tree. She likes the shade. So this plant in my climate can't really go outdoors, because the direct sunlight that I have, But if I did have a shade tree, a big old shade tree, I would absolutely try it because I just love this plant. I think she'll be a more fast grower if she was allowed to climb up a tree, and that's why I thought, ooh, put the moss stick there, and just add more moss sticks as she grows taller. And she is getting a little bit taller, and so I probably would add another moss stick. But she will have to get a bigger pot because that will probably uh, make the pot a little bit off balance. So I would get a bigger pot, but not too deep because she seems to like the a smaller pot, which I am thrilled about. I'm thrilled about it because I can move her wherever, which I don't. She stays in her one spot because I think that's what's helping her win, and I want her to win as much as possible. Now on to the next plant.